And so this concludes the multi-part series on how to deal with Asian parents when they take care of your kids. So a quick recap, I had some tips on how to lower your expectations and manage them, so that you don't get caught in a vicious cycle of disappointment when it comes to your parents taking care of your kids. So I really just have two expectations from them, which is to keep my kids safe, keep them fed, full and clean, and then of course speak Cantonese to them, so that because preserving my language is one of my values. And then the second thing we talked about, was focusing on their strengths and their positive traits rather than nagging them about things that they do wrong. And so there were two things that quite a few things that my parents do that I wanted to shift my focus and change my mindset towards. But when it does happen where they do things that trigger you and those issues are big and frequent enough, then it's time to have a tough conversation. And I shared with you two stories of how I had those conversations about snacks, and as well as my dad thinking that he knew better and trying to teach my daughter English. And then so it's focusing on their strengths, and then out of sight, out of mind. So if you are fortunate that your parents have or live relatively close to you, or is convenient enough for you to drop your kids off, I would definitely prefer that than having them come over to my house. And it's just being able to be away, so that whatever they're doing, you're not always aware of everything, because ignorance is bliss. And then, of course, being grateful and practicing the opportunity that your parents do have to get to know your kids, to get to know my kids, something that I didn't have growing up because my grandparents lived in Hong Kong, and a few of them left too early for me to really get to know them. And then the last thing we talked about was not comparing your parents to any other caretakers, and that just kind of really scrubbing clean of that comparing mentality that we grew up with, and maybe we want to be spiteful and start comparing them, and just to make them feel bad, or maybe it's just a natural tendency for us to do because it's hard not to compare between your parents and your in-laws, or even just between yourself and them. It's not beneficial for trying to maintain peace when you're comparing. And then lastly, I think this is the last tip, this last segment is about taking time to reminisce and just, learning more about yourself. Like when those annoying things happen and my parents do something or say something that pinches my values, I take time to dig deep and into myself, reflecting on my childhood and reflecting on values and beliefs and priorities, and really why whatever they said or did triggered me so emotionally. And often when that happens, it initiates a self-reflection cycle or journey where writing is my safe haven. It's my means of therapy. So I write a lot of things down. I discover old wounds that I thought I had healed, but really obviously need to be patched up. And I build my emotional strength, and really it's a moment for me to pass down onto my children my emotional strength and my recollections of my revelations of things I want to change. And sometimes it turns into a blog post or a podcast or a video. And even with it's not just with the negative instances, right? The annoying things that they do, but it's also the positive things, like the fun things, the things that you didn't think you would expect or discover with your parents. Delightful instances, like, funny things that my daughter says and does that my parents tell me, and their reactions, or even just nuggets of insight, like things that my parents stopped doing because they know better. For instance, now they're all about encouraging her to cry, and it's a safe space for her to cry. Whereas when I was growing up, my parents didn't exactly give me the safe space, and often actually made it more of an embarrassing thing or told me not to cry so much. So I get to relish in the cycle of parenting as part of allowing my parents to take care of my kids. And, you know, and if or when the time comes and my kids have kids, you know, I'm going to be at my house with the doors open, you know, unhealthy, super processed snacks purchased, my nimble body prepared after decades of, you know, maintaining it, of yoga and dance and whatever exercise that I stumble upon. Just eagerly waiting to do what my parents did for me. And, you know, at the end of the day, you have a choice. That's my son. He's just chilling. He's eating his hand. So cute. No, actually, he's eating a slipper. Anyway. And at the end of the day, you have a choice into who takes care of your kids. And if the burden outweighs the benefits, then, you know, maybe it's time to look elsewhere for childcare. So let me know your thoughts. Like, do your parents care for your kids? And maybe they did. Maybe your kids are older now. How was your experience? What were some tips that you have for parents who still have their parents take care of the grandchildren? And, you know, and let me know what your obvious no-nos. What are some major, like, absolute no's that you came across when they cared for them? Like, for myself, you know, hitting physical, discipline is absolutely a no-no. And I didn't really go into detail of just having that conversation, but my parents know that that's like one of those things that they know is not a good thing to do anymore, and they know better now. But yeah, let me know your thoughts and what you thought of the series. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks. Take care.